What did that bee do at your wedding? Soon-to-be mother-in-law doesn't show up to the wedding cause she hates her soon-to-be son-in-law. Reasons still unknown years later, but she dang sure showed up to the reception for the free food and open bar. Not my wedding, but my cousin's. Her best friend kept jumping into every picture she could and she'd stick her middle finger up at the camera in every picture. And then she tried to make out with the groom. No one has heard from her since the wedding. My uncle went around taking photos and getting people's names and addresses to send them the photos. A month later, he sent out photos, printed on an advertisement for his fly-by-night prepaid legal business, along with hard sell marketing material. So basically, he lied about what he was doing to get people's contact info for his business. Pretty pee off about that one. Ha ha ha, that's great. I mean, it's crappy, but it's great. Her jackass cousin tackled her, the bride, in her wedding dress. I approached him and asked something like, "Why did you do that? She's in her dress." He looked down, walked away to leave and muttered, "I was just fricking around." Mother-in-law left immediately following the ceremony. She loves to be over the top and dramatic. She didn't even say anything to my wife before doing so. We only found out when it was time to take pictures that she left, missed all the photos in the reception and never gave her a reason. She hasn't spoken to her daughter in over 2 years. Most likely blames everyone else for her problems rather than herself. It blows my mind. Not going to lie, probably better off without that type of person in your life. My sister's wedding was a bit over the top but beautiful. Castle, south of France. Need I say more? She had this group of friends who all put some money in an envelope as a present. One girl, the new girlfriend of one of the boys, said something like, "I don't have a lot to give and feel embarrassed to put my participation in front of you," so she took the envelope in the low and added her money there, away from judging eyes. Yep, you guessed it. She took more than 500 euros from the envelope. They only find out when one of those friends asked, weeks later, if the newlyweds had enjoyed the 1,000 euro during the honeymoon. The girl's excuse was that she was planning her own wedding and could just afford a city hall affair, and it was so unfair my sister had such a great venue. I'm personally quite immune to princess wedding day, but stealing money at a wedding is so wrong. I think the girl ended up as a bit of a castaway. My sister's marriage didn't last anyway, so I don't know what happened to her group of friends, but I often think of this girl and imagine her as one of life's constantly unhappy and envious. No way. I hope they called the dang cops on her. My mother-in-law changed our reception venue behind my back. Luckily, I found out and was able to get it changed back. This was my first introduction to her boundary issues. I have since learned that if she thinks there is even the slightest chance that someone won't do what she wants, then she feels completely entitled to use whatever means necessary to get her way. I think she legitimately believes that people who won't do what she wants are purposely being mean to her. She also passed out dollar store glow necklaces at our reception. She didn't ask me or anything, of course. It was a complete surprise to see her handing out glow necklaces as wedding favors. Frick, that's my worst nightmare. Not a B, a C. Little guy big mouth was a really close friend until at my wedding he stood in front of my mum when we were cutting the cake and proceeded to give her the finger when she asked him to move over a little. Just after that, while my dad was taking photos of me and my wife cutting the cake, he keeps nudging my dad's arm so he would get a shaky photo. My dad gave him a swift elbow to say frickin' stop, then said C stamps on my dad's foot. My dad loses it, pushes him out of the door to my father-in-law, who then pushes him further outside to his brother, who is a big guy and an ex-bouncer, picks him up by the collar and slaps him around the face a couple of times and drops him on the floor. Cops were called because he wouldn't calm down and had a night in the cells. I don't speak to him anymore. If you are reading this, Ricky, you are a C. The dad-in-law combo pleases me. Family unity. Not my wedding. I was just hotel management. Bridesmaid got so drunk she crapped herself, then proceeded to crawl down the hallway to and from the public restroom and then the elevator, dribbling crap down her leg. Then she passed out in front of the elevator and crapped some more. Showed up on H. She barely made it past the ceremony. My now wife's best friend did this. Not my wife. It still made for a huge crap show behind the scenes. She got stuck in the outhouse or something. She deliberately took forever to get ready and started a fight with her boyfriend, my husband's best friend and best man, right before the wedding. They showed up late because of the whole thing, which caused our whole wedding ceremony to be 20 minutes late. It is well known that she doesn't like me, so it was obviously a power play and done on purpose. She then didn't talk to me once during the entire wedding. It felt very awkward. I have one photo of me on the dance floor and she is in the background giving me the worst stink eye. LOL. The photo must be awesome. What a bee. Not mine but my friend's brother's rather religious wedding. Bride's mother makes a speech and says deadpan, if you hurt her, I will slit your throat. In her speech, at the wedding where her daughter is marrying the nicest guy, everyone was so stunned and embarrassed. No one laughed. Bride and groom could barely look at her. My sister bridesmaid frowned through the whole ceremony, like a pronounced frown with the pouty bottom lip, like not subtle at all. Destroyed all the pictures from the ceremony. She then got drunk, dominated every conversation. Then when one of my friends tried to change the subject, she became irate and later tried to convince me that my best friends don't really like me and had begged her to go on a group date with them. Yup, until it was embarrassing. Of course, when I didn't believe this insanity, she immediately told me a completely outlandish story about being abducted by aliens and how if I don't believe her I must see because she wrote about it in her journal once. So that means there's proof. I think it's official. She's lost her freaking mind. This reminded me of the fact that I ruined all of my sister's wedding photos because my resting face just macked me, looked enraged. Couldn't smile either because I always looked like Chandler from Friends. Damn it, I had just repressed that. At my brother's wedding, his mother-in-law sat her 11 last-minute guests at our guests table because she clearly did not give a frick about my family's guests. We couldn't add another table because we were at the max tables that would fit in the venue. So I had to ask the reception venue staff to add chairs to our other tables, which overcrowded our other tables and fricked up our seating chart. His mother-in-law cuts me off saying, no, you cannot have 13 people to a table. It's unlucky. Then B, why did you steal our table? Huh, you freaking dumbass superstitious B. What the heck were we supposed to do? Ask our guests to leave? I completely ignored her, turned to the staff member, and had them add the chairs anyway. Okay, I'm done ranting. My uncle. He made a scene about how his doctor had misdiagnosed his mental illness. He doesn't have one. He's an attention W and claims he has every disease disorder under the sun. For years, how he was going to sue them, etc. He literally stood up and made a speech about it. We had a very small wedding, only be about 40 guests, so it was completely inappropriate. Ex-girlfriend who I hadn't spoken to in 4 years sent me a text message minutes before the ceremony was to start that simply said, "Don't." Totally threw me, and whilst I was able to brush it aside and get on with the job at hand, I've never really forgotten it. Also, my wife's only brother, who is an attention-seeking knob, came out to her and all her friends the night before the wedding. Even though everyone knew for decades he was gay, but chose to choose that night to take the attention away from his sister, who he was insanely jealous of. That would have been a perfect opportunity for a new phone. Who dis? My mother, my so and I ended up doing a courthouse type marriage. Did the papers. Found someone to marry us. Went to her office to do it. The only people there were my ex-stepdad, I call him bonus dad, mom, aunt, uncle, and grandmother. My mom was my maid of honor. Bonus dad was my SOS best man. Right in the middle of our vows, my mom breaks down sobbing, interrupting everything. The B is obviously trying to get the attention on her since she can't seem to stand not being the middle of everything. We try to continue over her sobbing but only starts crying louder. My aunt, being the amazing person she is, grabbed the ring from my mom, pushed her towards my uncle, who pretty much dragged her outside. Aunt quickly announced she's the maid of honor now, which I was completely fine with, and the vows carried on. After signing everything, we go out to get to the car and my mom is just furious at me for letting your aunt do that. I just ignored her and went to the car. On the upside, when we were saying our vows, bonus dad started tearing up. It made me happy because it was super unlike him. Kinda guy who never says I love you because that's just him. Ex-first sergeant. Served from 1972 to 2007, manly man. I love you bonus dad. Frick you mom. I'm amazed by how many moms carry on like this. It's nuts. I get angry just thinking about this. It was my husband's best friend's mom, who was not invited, but showed up anyway, and brought a bunch of small children with her. It was explicitly her no kids, no exceptions wedding. Tried to sit at the same table as me and tried to take pictures of me while I was eating, and loudly criticized one of the caterers because she thought she saw him put a used spoon into a buffet dish. He didn't. My mom, who is pretty blunt, straight up asked her, "Who are you and why are you here?" I personally addressed all the invitations and I know we didn't invite you. To which she replied, "Well, my son needed a ride." My mom told her to leave, which was so unbelievably awkward, but she left without making more of a scene. Your mom is the queen of badassery with a spine of titanium. Got outrageously drunk, fought with their didn't spend time with any of the wedding party, created unnecessary drama with family members, never said congratulations. Yeah, my brother-in-law is a B. At my mom's best friend's wedding, a young lady decided to wear a white floor-length dress and kept asking the DJ to play all these line dancing songs that only she knew the moves to. I think the groom was more P than the bride, so part 2 of my wedding gift to them was to casually drag her off the dance floor and talk to the DJ about reading the room when it came to requests. So many of these stories involve butthole DJs that just don't get how to properly do their job at a wedding. Baffles my mind. Mother-in-law showed up 30 minutes late, told my wife she looked terrible, made negative comments the whole time. Been working on a nice jig to do over her grave ever since. Upvote for jig, I love jigs. After the ceremony, we were taking group pics with both families. After a couple of pictures, my mother-in-law starts walking around loudly proclaiming, "Can we get a picture with just the close family, please?" My husband and I were like, sure, but then she kept saying it over and over again, until finally I realized she wanted a pic without me in it but was just being passive aggressive about it. So finally I'm like, "Do you want me to move?" And she's like, "Yeah, that would be great. I've been meaning to get some family pics done and this is the perfect location." Continues to get a million pics of her. She's my husband's stepmom, her kids and their families, and my husband and his brothers while I'm just standing off to the side awkwardly. Then come Christmas, she has the audacity to send my parents a Christmas card using one of the pics of just them from the wedding with a little "from our family to yours" line. This on top of the million other things she's done to be awful. I cannot stand this woman. I would have later requested that the photographer delete all those photos, but I'm also super petty about that crap. If you're paying, you decide. She got super drunk, gave a speech during the ceremony where she was apparently channeling my dead mom, whom she had never even met, saying how proud my mom was of me. Then later, during the actual reserved time for speeches, she again, uninvited, shared the story of when I met my husband and how I actually wasn't interested in him BC I was trying to frick his friend at the time. She didn't say trying to frick, but she may as well have. It's totally true, but did she have to announce it to my entire group of wedding guests? What a nightmare. We are not friends anymore. Where she was apparently channeling my dead mom. I would be totally okay with this ending, and that's when I killed her. I'm not an actually violent person, but there are things you just don't do say. B stood around and loudly complained about our cake choice, the photographer, our music, and the flowers. B also didn't stop the music I had chose for the wedding march when I had instructed her to. B was the wedding planner. The day before my wedding, my husband's female roommate texted him saying she didn't think she could come to the wedding because she'd be in such emotional pain and would miss him so much. Instead, she said she'd be sitting at home, watching rom-coms, and eating Ben & Jerry's. I kid you not, she had liked him for 2 years. He had assumed she would respect reasonable boundaries like I have a girlfriend and I'm not interested. Do not passive aggressively confess to your crush the day before they get married. Skipped my bridal shower and bachelorette party, but found time to go, uninvited, to the strip club with my husband, his friends, and her boyfriend, who was a groomsman. Came to my wedding dressed as a H and congratulated me by saying she thought it would be her getting married first. We're obviously not friends anymore, and these aren't even the main reasons for that. Give her some credit. Maybe she was not invited to the strip club but scheduled by the manager. Well, I don't want to call my mom a B, but it fits the category. My wife and I told her she could wear any color dress she wanted except navy blue, as that was the bridal party color. What color dress does she wear? Navy blue. Also, I have a suspicion that my 2 cousins that were there that were not invited by me were invited by my mom. My mill did the same balls except I said she could wear a little bit. She took that to mean floor length gown in exact color and shade and claimed it wasn't the same really because it had some silver beading on top. I have a couple. Unfortunately, my first marriage didn't go very well. At the wedding, I had a rented tux on and I asked my new wife not to smear cake on me when we cut the cake because of that. Of course, when the time came, it wasn't just a cute smear of frosting or something like you'd see at most weddings. Oh no, she full on plastered me with cake and a mess of frosting and food coloring. I don't know what was worse, being angry and hurt and embarrassed when the whole room was watching, or when people were pulling me aside later and apologizing for it when her and her parents were still laughing and making jokes about it a couple of hours later. I thankfully remarried a great person years later, and we had a small ceremony that was really very nice. Our photographer was taking pictures afterward before we were heading to the reception, and I had been talking to my dad when he started, so he just took our picture together first. My mom, being who she is, was incensed by not being first to get her picture taken when she wanted and proceeded to throw a fit and leave. My parents had been divorced for at least a decade or so prior to this. Maybe a couple of minutes later, we were all lining up and getting family together for pictures, and when I couldn't find my mom, I learned that she'd stormed off and left on what would otherwise be one of the best days of my life. There'll always be that storm cloud of pettiness that she left behind because she couldn't handle putting one of her kids ahead of herself for 10 minutes worth of time. And there, right there, is an illustration of exactly who I don't want to be. God help me, I hope I'm never like your mom. Showed up in a trashy version of my bridesmaid's dress and brought an uninvited guest. Jokes on her. Everyone knows she was a complete idiot to try and do that, and someone actually told her later that it was super crappy. Reminds me of my Bill's wedding. My so was the best man and I happened to own a nice dress in the bride's favorite color, the color vest the groomsmen wore. I had to explain to my so that it was not a good idea to wear it specifically because we'd match and I would look like a tacky clinger in every picture. I know a girl who wore white consistently to all of the weddings she was invited to one wedding season. She was also very aggressive at all of the bouquet tosses. So much secondhand cringe. Everyone was a B. I had a destination wedding and paid for people to come. People only stayed about an hour at our reception and took off to do tourist stuff. My husband and I spent the majority of our reception alone. We paid out a lot of money to make sure people had fun and they all left. 10 years later and it still pisses me off. It was a small wedding and it did not sure prices now, cost that much to fly to this destination. It was on a beach at a resort. Whoa, that's really fricked up. A whole new level of inconsiderate and egotistical. I'm really sorry to hear they acted this way. I love my aunt, but she scrapped our planned DJ for a live band without telling us. Needless to say, a Skinhead cover band was not what I had in mind for my wedding. And I love me some Skinhead. We gave them a CD with our song on it. After a few minutes and then realizing they didn't have the equipment to play our song, they just started playing something random. I still have no freaking clue what song we shared our first dance as a married couple to. I'm a petty enough guy that if this happens at my wedding, I just won't dance until we can get the right song. I don't care if it's coming off YouTube on a phone stuffed in my pocket. We're dancing to our song. Bridesmaid. I had only a glimpse of her crazy prior to this. Frequent emotional meltdowns throughout the day, disappear to cry for a while, sucker another bridesmaid to comfort her, and carry on like nothing without identifying a source of discontent. Yelled at the nicest woman in the building, not even in wedding party, just being helpful, and stormed off swearing when her decorations weren't perfect. Left saying I can't do this and drove away in a fit with flowers for the reception in her car. Eventually showing up late, adding flowers to tables, acting like nothing happened. Bridesmaids were excellent buffers the whole time and it later came out she was jealous of me getting married to a man, and not her. Talk about a twist. Whoa. Wore the same color dress as the bridesmaids, even though she was expressly told not to, and her dress was real loose on the top so her tee kept falling out. Walked around taking pictures during the ceremony with a stupid little point and shoot camera. She's in the background of literally over half of our wedding pictures. It was almost 10 years ago, and I'm getting pee off all over again thinking about it. By the time of our wedding, my husband's 33-year-old sister was still single and she hated that her younger brother was getting married first. How did she deal with it? By trying to sabotage my wedding. The night before our wedding, she got s-faced and, while ugly crying, told my husband that it was supposed to be her wedding and it wasn't fair because she'd be able to plan a much better wedding than ours. That would eventually prove to be false, as she finally got her off-again boyfriend to propose by giving him an ultimatum. We had a small elegant outdoor wedding at a mountain lodge, and my sil convinced some family members on my husband's side that the dress code was casual, so they showed up in jeans, t-shirts, and hoodies. I was beyond upset with them for readily taking my sil's word without double checking with us. Luckily my photographer was sensible enough to exclude them from the pictures as much as possible. At our reception she went around complaining to our guests about how cheap our wedding was. My husband's side is used to those typical church and banquet hall weddings and ours was way different. But still, it's rude to crap all over someone else's wedding at their wedding. The lodge had a hot tub on the property, and near the end of the night when people were starting to leave, she changed into her bathing suit and chilled in the hot tub. This was planned ahead of time because she thought to bring her bathing suit there. My husband and I don't really talk to her anymore. Yikes. Also, what kind of idiot turns up to a wedding in a hoodie? Even if it's casual, surely you want to look good. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.